Hey everybody, and welcome to the warm-up brought to you by WODprep. Today we are going to be discussing hero workouts. Before we get started, we are joined by Savannah, CJ, and Ben. Savannah, what was your breakfast this morning?
I'm not a big breakfast person, so I am a coffee girl for a while. But today I also had a handful of mixed nuts. So,
Ooh.
I know. So
Were
I'm
they
on my
salted?
What?
Were they salted?
Well, there were some like sweet and spicy pecans in there, and then the rest of them are unsalted.
Wow.
What are you gonna do?
She's fibbing. It was definitely like chocolate M&M's trail mix.
It was like trail
M&Ms
mix,
for
and she
breakfast.
literally only ate the chocolate chips out of it.
Okay,
Yes.
It was just peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
A well-rounded breakfast.
Hey, there's protein in peanuts. CJ, how about yourself? How was your breakfast?
Yeah, I went to I had like an extensive morning of food and coffee consumption. So I went to the coffee shop and worked for a little bit. There I get what's called an Angelino, which is espresso with a little bit of half and half and honey. It is fantastic. And it's over ice. Then we went to a place called Ruby Slipper, which is like a New Orleans style brunch place. And I had like a eggs Benedict trio. So it was like 3 different eggs Benedicts, obviously on a biscuit. And then one had like a spicy fried chicken. One was, I don't know, I think like some vegan, like some vegetable fried cram thing. It's kind of what it tasted like. And then I don't remember what the other one was. Maybe shrimp, something like that. Or yeah, it was good.
Charlie, do they have muffins in the UK? Or are they called like crumpets?
We have. So we don't have biscuits. A muffin is like a cupcake, but then we have an English muffin, which is like...
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, an English muffin.
Yeah, and you split it apart.
Okay. I meant to say
crumpets is a
biscuits,
whole...
so you don't have biscuits.
No, I don't have biscuits.
Okay. What's a crumpet?
A crumpet. Actually, do I have crumpets?
Of course, you would have one. Oh my gosh, please have a crumpet.
And tea.
Oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted.
Wait, you have biscuits. You have biscuits. You don't have biscuits? You don't just like make bread that fluffs up? I'm so confused.
No.
This crumpet audio is going to be so fire for the podcast.
I know. Right, there we go. There's a crumpet.
Yeah,
it's like an English muffin.
Yeah.
No, it's not an English muffin. I know every week you get it.
I know what that is. It's called an English muffin. Good try, though.
It's got little
you toast it, you put some butter on it. It's delicious. I have them all the time. Don't try to tell me. Don't try to tell me that's a crumpet. I don't eat crumpets.
There you go. Ben, how was your morning?
Hold on, let me wait for the ear piercing wrinkling. Okay, now it's gone. My morning was great. I woke up at 2:40 in the morning. I walked around in the woods in the pouring rain and didn't find any turkeys. So after that was done, I went to this little diner that was kind of in the middle of nowhere. And it was like, you could tell I pulled up with my buddy, and it's like the same 22 people go there every morning. You can tell. And it was amazing. It was so good. And it was like, we had to be careful not to like sit in someone's seat. We walked in and she's like, sit in that one. I'm like, okay. Because other people like walked in, they just walked to the same seat. And I had corned beef hash with 2 eggs over easy and a cinnamon roll. And it was delicious. And I've also had two little protein shake things because my buddy is staying with me and he's really, really fit, and he keeps yelling at me that I don't eat enough food, nor do I consume enough protein. So he's up in my protein numbers. Yes, CJ, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, so I'm on Google right now, and an English scone is an American biscuit, by the way. It's the same thing.
Hold on,
100%.
A scone is a biscuit.
Yeah, an English scone is an American biscuit. That's what it looks like. That's what our biscuits look like.
But we put what we put cream of thunder on it. So we put cream and
whatever that means.
treacle. Yeah.
What is thunder?
In Scotland, when you have a scone
I'm just saying, you can put whatever. Whipped cream? Like whipped cream? Is that what you...
Jay, stop interrupting. No. What is thunder? And how can I have it?
So it's a scone with clotted cream with treacle, and it's called, I can't remember its proper name, but this treacle's the thunder bit. I think it's something else. I have to look it up now.
You said like probably 40 words in the last 10 seconds, and I know 2 of them. I have no idea what you're saying. And
hold on, I gotta look it up. Oh, it's like a syrup.
When you move to America, can you please bring me a bag of thunder?
It's syrup. It's like really thick syrup.
So you don't have treacle?
No.
Choose it?
Whoa, you don't have treacle?
No, we have syrup.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't even know.
Maple syrup.
No, guys. Right, you got.
It's honey, maple syrup. I'm looking at it.
You got maples. No. There's levels here, CJ, and it's different. So you've got honey, golden syrup, maple syrup, and then you've got treacle, which is so much darker and thicker, and that's how.
Right. Okay. So it's right. It's just a level of. It's basically like
thicker, darker syrup.
Yeah. It's like straight from the tree. Think of like sap from the tree is kind of what I'm getting.
Okay. It's that good Canadian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, God.
Wow.
You got to bring.
In August,
when you move here,
Charlie,
what
did you have? You had thunder, or were you just saying something else?
Hold on.
What did you have for breakfast?
I just have
a spoon and thunder and double cream.
It's called Thunder and Lightning Scone. It's where you have.
Fuck yeah, it is.
That's what it's called.
Why did Charlie lift so much?
That's right. She just straight up like eats Thor's babies every morning for breakfast. Wow. Just like thunder, lightning, breakfast.
Seriously. It's actually embarrassing how big my syrup bottle is actually in my cupboard right behind me, but we won't talk about it. What did I have for breakfast? I had a Starbucks venti latte.
That was the most anticlimactic answer you could possibly give.
It was.
After pulling out all those stops, and then you say you got Starbucks.
It's like 7 p.m. there. Is that all you've eaten today?
Oh, no, don't worry, Coach. I had 2 dinners.
Thank you.
I literally did. I had rice and chicken, ginger chicken, as well as chips and fish. That was my 2 dinners for this evening.
So French fries.
French fries, right? Is rice the same thing? Is rice the same thing, or is rice like some like carrot?
It's probably quinoa.
It definitely is quinoa.
It was risotto rice.
Of all the rices, risotto is usually the worst.
It's either that or it's like Rice Krispies. It's like the cereal Rice Krispies. Snap, crackle, pop, baby.
Oh, a side note, since we were talking about Savannah taking out the M&Ms in her trail mix today, who also ate Lucky Charms and just ate the charms and then left the everything else? Yep. Or ate all the other part first and then ate all the marshmallows at the same time?
Yes. You had to leave the marshmallows for the end. And I actually still strategically do that when I eat most meals, is I save the best parts for last. So I always start with, let's say hypothetically I was to eat a meal that had vegetables in it. I would start with the vegetables and then I'd finish with, like, let's say there was mashed potatoes or something like that. You finish with the good stuff. You always got to finish with the goods.
Yeah, true. All right.
So now we're nicely fueled with food. Right, what is a CrossFit Hero workout?
I can take a crack at this one. A CrossFit Hero workout is a hero WOD that is a tribute to a fallen first responder, soldier, or someone who's died protecting others. That is a definition. I didn't look that up, but that's what I understand it as. And interestingly enough, before this podcast, we were all kind of talking about like what constitutes like an official hero workout. And I did a little bit of digging, and there are CrossFit hero workouts, and that would be defined as a hero workout that was submitted. Normally it's submitted by friends and family members to CrossFit headquarters. You can actually submit a workout, apparently. I haven't even looked this up, but this is what I was reading about, is that you can submit a workout to CrossFit headquarters, and then they review it, and they edit the write-up about it, and then they'll post it on CrossFit.com. And then that would, I guess, officially mint it as a official CrossFit Hero workout. But when I was doing some digging, there's all kinds of other hero workouts. Like, for instance, there's actually a really good, my buddy owns the website Wodwell, and they have a really good list of workouts. And his website has a list of 1,075 hero workouts. And they actually have them labeled of like CrossFit Hero workout or CrossFit DC Hero workout, or let's see, there's a couple that are like Australia CrossFit Hero workout. So like they have a couple different, I guess, classifications. So I think what happens is that some gyms will write hero workouts for, let's say, if they had a like I've seen some where unfortunately, let's say a coach passes away. Like there was one not too long ago, terrible story, but a CrossFit coach, I forget where it was. I forget what his name was, but mad respect and love for the guy. He actually died trying to save someone from rip current, and he died. And then his gym did like a fundraiser / hero workout and like made a hero workout in his honor. So while maybe it wasn't posted on CrossFit.com, it still is very much a hero workout because he died trying to save someone. So that is my long definition of what a hero workout is. And then obviously there's lots of famous ones like Murph that's coming up. And there's apparently a heck of a lot more that I've never done or even seen that are posted online.
What Ben was talking about is Damian Walker, who gave his life to save his wife who was caught in a rip current. So respect to everyone in that circle. Yep.
And there's obviously, it seems like most hero workouts are definitely, there's obviously a lot that are skewed towards, military service members. I'd say it seems like the majority, but there's also a lot of other first responders. And, you have Hot Shots 19, which is dedicated to firefighters. There's a lot of different hero workouts because what technically constitutes a hero, I'd say, is very broad, and there's a lot of very valid hero workouts that weren't necessarily military or first responder.
So do you think that the overarchingly weight on more American fallen military and first responder hero workouts are because CrossFit was primarily started in the US, and I think that military personnel gravitated towards it at the beginning and kind of grew it quite a bit. And so to this point, that's kind of been the way that it's built. But now that we're expanding more into the rest of the world and Europe is growing so much, do you think that the hero workouts will also grow in worldwide representation?
Yeah, I definitely think that's I think the writing's on the wall for sure, because the majority of our hero workouts were created even prior to most of us starting CrossFit. Like they were in the 2000s, right? Not even in the teens. A lot of them were 07 to 11. Most of them, all your most famous 20, maybe besides Chad. I think Chad is probably the only one that has recently just been very popularized, but most likely because of how Dave got it into the CrossFit sphere. But most of them are very old, well over 10, 15 years old. And so obviously new ones are coming up all the time, but for the most part, it's a kind of like a history, traditional sort of thing. And, CrossFit was really built early through the American military, and it's kind of spread its wings, obviously. And so, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine CrossFit's main goal is to be worldwide, right? Much bigger and outside of the States. So I can see that definitely being the direction. But it does seem like it's not something that they're just reaching to go grow, right? I don't know if it's it's not something you want to grow, right? It's these are tributes and things. So I think as more people send things in across, maybe they're more apt to get them in and get them, published, etc., from outside of the States.
Yeah, I would like to know, kind of from your guys' perspective, the gym that I started CrossFit at, the owners had both military and first responder backgrounds. So when I was scrolling through the list of hero workouts, many of them look very familiar because I feel like they were programmed more often than I see them now. I think that they were a regular, excuse me, they were a regular programming in my life. And when I started CrossFit through quite a few of my early years, when you guys took a look through that list, Ben, I'm also looking at the Wadwell list. Do you feel like you know a lot? I feel like I know a lot of them, and a lot of them I've never, ever seen.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many. I'm kind of poking around at that list right now. There's a lot of. I just sorted it by newest, and of course, I haven't heard of almost all of these. And then, of course, if you resort it to most popular, that's where you see a lot of the kind of like the OG, the old school ones that CJ was talking about. But yeah, there's a lot. They all normally have some sort of meaning, right? So normally the rep scheme is dedicated to maybe the date of their death, or maybe their birth date, or the age, or how many loved ones they left behind. Normally the rep scheme has meaning, and then you kind of build the movements into the rep scheme. That's kind of what I've seen with a lot of the workouts. But one thing I will say, we were asking about inclusivity, and hey, is CrossFit going to program non-US hero workouts? And based on the digging that I just did, I didn't know how to answer that earlier. They do it all the time. I mean, I've seen Canadian, I've seen Australian, I've seen lots of different European countries that were CrossFit.com hero workouts. So while it's obviously heavily skewed because CrossFit is an American company, and the unfortunate thing is we've had a lot of soldiers, die in battle over the last, couple decades. It's not to say that there haven't been a lot of other heroes that have passed, and it does look like CrossFit is doing a good job of making sure there is representation. And again, I think a lot of these CrossFit isn't going out to seek and find hero workouts. It's all about submissions. So it does make sense that due to there being more CrossFitters in the United States, there are probably more submissions. There's more CrossFit gyms in the United States, like per capita. So there's probably a lot more submissions from the US side of things. But it does look like we're getting some pretty good representation, especially all the recent ones that I'm seeing posted here. They're from all over. I mean, they're from all over the globe, which is really good to see.
Charlie, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How long have you been doing CrossFit?
I started at sort of start of 2016.
Okay, and you worked out with like at a regular gym with class for a long time?
I did class for about a year. Yeah.
Okay. My question is, whenever we did do a hero workout, which this is something that I think is really important, we always had a kind of a very serious moment of reflection and discussion about the person that the workout was a tribute for, and how workouts like this are almost more important to be a little more seriously taken, and really for quality and for honoring that person. And I think that it always gave me like this sense, like I'm getting tingles just saying this, because I just feel like you really like take that to heart, or I did anyways. And I think that it's not about necessarily your time, and it's not about how hard it is, and it's not about your suffering, and it really is about that sacrifice. Do you feel like you had that same experience?
See, that sounds really lovely. I really like that approach, but I can only speak for my experience, particularly I'd say like the first 3 or 4 years of doing CrossFit. is when I've done the most hero workouts or been introduced by the gym that I've been at or attended. And no, there's none of that. It's not. It's just they are seen as harder workouts to do and to challenge yourself to overcome. Like DT. I'm going to start naming some of the OG ones that were sort of mentioned. So DT it was very regularly scheduled into class. Obviously, we do Murph as more of a community, the gym's community brought together, and you would kind of start, as you kind of introduce into CrossFit, you might start trying to find some other ones to just do and challenge yourself. But you'd only start learning about the person behind the workouts the more years you've been in the sport, and that you start getting more exposed to it. But I've always had to go and seek it out and read about it rather than there be any message or narrative in the actual gym itself. But that is, again, my experience. I can't speak for every box in the in England.
Sure.
Yeah, I've definitely, I remember I've done a decent amount of traveling abroad and worked out at a bunch of gyms, and I've actually hit a few hero workouts. One was I did Murph in France. I did DT in Finland. Like, I've done a few hero workouts. And I definitely remember a couple times they did have the description written up there, which I thought was pretty awesome. Not just like, here's the workout. It was like DT, and then in Finnish, yeah, I couldn't read it, but it was the actual description of DT and who he was, and when he died and what he was doing. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. And then there's obviously tons of times I've been to places in the US where they've programmed hero workouts, and they're just like, oh, today's your hero workout. Boom, that's it. So I think it's all about intentionality. I mean, you can definitely, they tend to be grueling workouts. For those who haven't done very many hero workouts, they're pretty much all grinders. Like, and you look at some hero workouts and you're like, what? Like they're gnarly. And the whole purpose, I think, is for an extended, heightened sense of suffering and struggle, because that could potentially put you in a state of remembrance. And, it's kind of one of those things where if you're grinding through a hero workout, you can't really feel sorry for yourself, because there's, you get to do the hero workout. But I think there's a lot of gyms that really put an intent and a focus on, hey, we're doing this because it's hard, and that's it, and to remember the fallen. And then there's some people who, they program hero workouts because it's a part of their master plan of programming. So I think it all depends on the intentionality going into it. But this, if anything, this is serving a good reminder to me, because I'm sure there's been times where I've hit hero workouts and I haven't necessarily gone into it with the mindset of like what it actually stands for and who it's for, and that I get to do it, not that I have to do it. So yeah, this is bringing good thoughts to the surface.
So speaking of sort of grueling workouts, then I would say Murph is probably the most famous hero workout of them all. And it does come around on Memorial Day, which, as I said, as from point of recording this, it is coming up very, very quickly. Here at WODprep on the online training, Murph Prep is already underway, and a lot of our athletes are already getting in there, getting stuck in. So, CJ, I know it's your favorite. What is Murph?
1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and a 1 mile run. And it can be partitioned any way possible. You do it with a vest, without a vest. You just have to do the run before, do the work in between, and then finish with a run. So, do we want to get into like what Murph is and who Murph is? Do we want to talk about that, or do you want to just keep this about training?
One thing I definitely want to chime in. One thing that's interesting about Murph specifically, and I think maybe one of the reasons why it's one of the more famous hero workouts, is, well, I mean, one, the story behind it all is pretty outstanding. And if you don't know the story, you can watch the movie Lone Survivor, and they actually do a pretty good job. Apparently, they do a good job of making the story as accurate as they could. But what's interesting is that Lieutenant Michael Murphy, who Murph is named after, he actually did this workout a bunch. Like he was the one that made up this workout and did it a bunch while he was deployed, and he just called it body armor because he wore a weight vest. He wore his body armor, not a weight vest, actual real body armor, and he would do this workout, allegedly completely unpartitioned, as just like that was his training while he was deployed, which I find pretty fascinating because I think a lot of hero workouts aren't necessarily written by the person they're dedicated after, but Murph is, I think, really unique in that sense.
And I think the other thing about Murph is that I know in the past when I've been online, probably looking for strategies of how to have the smartest option kind of through the middle section, is that Murph is widely known outside of the CrossFit community and comes up on multiple other like fitness searches, Men's Health, I think I've seen it in a few different magazines who they spotlight it. So I think that it is probably the only or one of the only ones that has kind of stretched outside of CrossFit because of its challenging nature.
Yeah, they deemed it, am I muted? No. They deemed it the Murph Challenge, right? When you find it outside of CrossFit, they call it the Murph Challenge. Like that's how it's named. So it's almost like a test, right? Like, can you complete it, in general, right? And so I don't know how it kind of came to that. I think it was just, obviously just from the popularity within the CrossFit space, and then it just sort of grew outside of it. I'm going to guess probably like in the OCR world, it's very OCR, obstacle course racing training style, right? Pull-ups, body weight, wearing a vest, a lot of running. So I'm going to guess that's probably how it kind of permeated itself, like out of our weirdly small bubble that we think is massive, by the way, in case anyone didn't know. It's so small. But yeah, it's cool because I know a lot of people that are into other fitness activities that will kind of, pop their little head up around Memorial Day and then like tuck their way back in. And I'm just like, hey, you do this stuff. So,
but just on that, I think Murph is one of the most accessible hero workouts, even though it is still grueling. I remember only being a few months into CrossFit and doing Murph. Admittedly, it was with no weighted vest. I did ring rows. I did jumping pull-ups. I did knees on the floor push-ups. And they were the scale versions I did of Murph when I first started. But you still get exactly the same sense of achievement when you do it RX as well. It still feels exactly the same. But then, like you said, you got the obstacle race course people coming in, people doing high rocks, the bodybuilders can do it. It's so body weight focused, and there's so many different variations and scaled options. I think it is quite inclusive as a workout compared to some of the other hero workouts, like Nate, for example. You've got ring muscle ups and things in there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, Charlie, I can remember quite a few of my first Murphs and how significantly different they were, as you progress and you kind of level up to, I think I did probably banded pull-ups, and I remember just like getting it out of the band for eternity, honestly. And then I shared that picture with you guys, which I think was maybe my first vested Murph, and I remember like feeling completely suffocated, like absolutely suffocated. Like I almost feel like I was having a panic attack on the run. And it's like each time like has such a different feel and has such a different experience that they all feel pretty distinctly different to a point when you're like, once you establish that. I think it takes a while to be able to kind of semi-seamlessly move through it, but it's definitely is an interesting challenge. Do you guys remember, Ben or CJ, your first experiences? Probably vested, unpartitioned, under an hour. 40 minutes.
It was. I remember it very specifically. I had only been doing CrossFit like 2 weeks, and I did Murph, um, unvested Cindy, but I was a runner and I had good body weights. Like, so push-ups are the limiter in case anyone doesn't know. Okay. Like push-ups are for sure the limiter. Well, when I started CrossFit, I was coming from bodybuilding. So my push-ups were a million times better than they are now. Right. So my first Murph was my fastest Murph ever. It was like 38 minutes or something insane because I ran like 7:30s and my push-ups were the easiest part and I was just blasting through it. And you do Cindy, fine, and it was never that easy again. So I've done it all 4 ways, right? Like, so I went in order all 4 years. I went like partitioned Cindy, unvested, unvested, unpartitioned, and then partition vested, or vested, unpartitioned. And then my 5th year was fully in the sun with 100% of it, which, by the way, is totally different than being able to do it all not under the sun. And all of them had a different like experience to it. Like my partitioned year was really hot, but I did it all inside, right, in the vest, and so it was still pretty quick. But then like even the unpartitioned years from like inside to outside, the outside one, I mean, I don't think I've ever done a workout that long. Like it was just like a whole nother world. My runs were like 12-minute miles maybe.
That's
And
great.
just
Yeah.
it's a whole different world. And so that was the year. So 17 was the first year I'd ever done it, that I've told myself I was going to do it in the sun, right? It was the year they did it at the games straight through and everyone fucking heat stroked out, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Are we not supposed to curse on this podcast? Anyways, when everyone got sick,
I chip sailed earlier when we were talking about crumpets.
Yeah. Who I did?
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah,
Keep
perfect.
going.
And so that was the year I was like, I'm going to do it outside. And this was a terrible idea. That's a whole nother ball game in the sun, Pensacola, Florida.
I mean,
That
yeah,
May was
but
like, it was 100 degrees on the floor.
I was going to say, for the listeners, CJ, where is your location? Because your outside is very different to my outside.
Right. Your outside is basically me in air conditioning, which is amazing. No, I live in Florida. And so this Murph will be pretty warm in 2 weeks from now. But that year, I mean, it had been 100 degrees for like 3 weeks at that point, and it was miserable. And after that, I told myself I don't really care how I ever do it again, but I'm not doing it like that. Like, so it was very much this challenge mindset, right? Kind of like what Savannah was saying, this accomplishment, and I accomplished it. I'd done it all the ways that I wanted to ever go through it, and yeah, and I think I've only done it once since like 2018. The gym that we go to did, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we don't do Murph every year. We switch it up sometimes, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah.
In terms of my first time, I have to admit I do not remember when my first Murph was. Most likely, it was done just like most of the hero workouts. My first time ever doing them was at the North Carolina State gym, because I was the head programmer of the group of bros that I would, and there was a couple girls, a couple really fit girls, and we were like this little mini cult that did CrossFit at the NC State gym. Like none of the right equipment, but there we are doing bar muscle ups on the split handle, pull up bar cable machine thing. And we're, doing cleans without bumper plates and snatches without bumper plates. It's just like, it was chaos, marking up the walls for handstand push-ups, just a bunch of stuff. But I remember, I think honestly, the first Murph I ever did was probably on a treadmill in the NC State gym, because that's where I was doing everything. Like it wouldn't really have been possible, or I guess it would have been. It just would have been very difficult for me to like scan out of the gym, run, and then scan back in all in the middle of a workout. So I'm pretty sure I did a 1 mile run on the treadmill and then did a Cindy partitioned Murph without a vest. I I didn't even know what a weight vest was, to be honest with you, probably. And then, yeah, it's progressed from there. And I've now a couple times I've done vested unpartitioned Murph, and that is a beast of a workout, and it's tough. And yeah, I think like CJ was kind of mentioning is like, it's not, and he was mentioning this before the call, it's like not particularly good training, like doing Murph and just beating yourself in the ground for, potentially over an hour for a lot of people isn't necessarily a great workout to make you fitter. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, you're doing it for like, hey, I'm going to suffer through this. And I realize that because other people have suffered so much greater than this, and I'm going to suffer in their remembrance. I think that's a perfectly acceptable reason to grind it out in that workout. But remember, when we're doing Murph, we want to make sure that we do it in a way that doesn't hurt us either, right? There's a lot of people, unfortunately, who probably get, I don't know any stats on this, but I've certainly heard through the grapevine, a lot of people who get rhabdo doing Murph because they go from not really doing anything to like, sure, I can do all those pull-ups and push-ups, and then they do it in a group setting, they fly through it, and they drink a bunch of alcohol after, and that is a recipe for rhabdo disaster. So just it's important to kind of check your ego and not let you trying to prove yourself in the workout get the best of you, and then suffer through it. So that's my Murph story. I don't really have one.
Savannah.
For the record, Charlie is now drinking wine. I would like everyone listening to know things are about to get real interesting.
I think he just refilled.
Yeah, Ben, I have no idea about alcohol.
That's alcohol-free wine. Okay, got it.
No,
just like the alcohol-free gin.
The alcohol-free gin.
This is alcoholic.
Wow.
Yeah, I've tried all the alcohol-free wines, and there's nothing. So what a shame.
Yeah, it's called juice. High C. Get it? Yeah, it's in the juice aisle. Savannah.
Yes.
First time.
Mine? Yeah, it was the band Bonanza.
Oh, got it.
I can even remember where I was. I'm like, green band. Oh, yeah. I remember my spot on the bar, my box. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like I can like put myself in. That's like the only part I remember, I think, because it was probably not. Now I'd be like, no, band, don't do the band. Don't. That's not. But, then bands were life. But now a little, CrossFit progresses.
Sure.
I mean, so if for the people doing Murph, what is everybody's biggest one top tip going into it?
I'm going to pause that. I'm going to Charlie, tell us your experience with Murph.
My experience with Murph? Well, obviously that was my first time. I was like super early into the introduction of CrossFit, so that was a shock to the system. But similarly to you at that point, I just came out of competitive skiing and I ran a lot and I was doing bodybuilding before that. So I had at least something behind me at that point. But then my running just got worse and worse over the next few years. So I would get through the Cindy bit.
Style.
Huh?
I said the true CrossFit style. Everyone I also was a runner when I started CrossFit. Mine also got worse and worse.
I was never good at running. I hated running, and now I am a running extraordinaire. All right, continue, Charlie.
Yeah, so that was it. So but my Cindy was getting better and better. So that was kind of apparent. It was going really well. But then I just kept on dying every single year on that second run. So I've always done it the games way with the weighted vest, apart from 1 year when I just had knee surgery, and that was the year that I biked it. But then last year, I think I got down to like 41, 42 minutes now on the games way with a weighted vest. So what I've been doing every year is using it as like a benchmark on my as a fitness benchmark on how good's my running, am I able to do that second run better, and can I get through all of that Cindy, all the pull-ups and push-ups, can I get that through that proficiently?
And the games way, is that 5 rounds? Is that 5 rounds? How did they do it at the games?
We've done it 2 ways.
Yeah, when we call it the games wave in our gym, it's like where you do the 100 pull-ups, unpartitioned. 100
Yeah,
pull-ups.
Oh,
unpartitioned.
unpartitioned. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they did one time at the games where they did 5 rounds in
Correct.
between, right? Okay. All right.
The following year.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was when.
Yeah. That's when
I think Yonakoski won.
Columbus. The which one?
Yonakoski won. Josh Bridges was really pissed because he was like an American didn't win. He made like a huge post about it.
Yeah, but Josh Bridges has also got one of the fastest Murph times recorded, hasn't he? He's won.
I was there. I was there in person when he won that workout, and that was unreal. Like just like you could see, like he'll die. Like
Yeah.
he would literally die, or he's either gonna win or he's gonna die. It was crazy watching that.
Yeah, but what you only saw there was that when he came in, there was actually red, white, and blue streaks behind him, and they were just like falling off.
It was pretty amazing to watch, but obviously as an American, with at the time I had a spouse in the military, it was like, oh my gosh. But
anyway, I'm from Manchester, and we had Sam Briggs, home girl, also win it and crush the Murph.
She
smashed absolutely killed it. And also, all I remember in the interview, she was just going like, "Yeah, nobody else took any water, and I took some water, and like she just splashed it all over her head." And that's what she attributes like winning Murph to.
Well, there was like this thing back then where they, like, if you got water, like, because CrossFit back then was different. Okay, CrossFit back then was who could withstand the gruel. It wasn't who was the fittest. It was who was the fittest, but it was who could go the darkest and like be the meanest and like handle the most gnarly situation, right? It's different now. It's real racing. It's racing now, right? And so, but and like some people, I think there was actually some point where early on Dave was like, if you grab water, you get docked or some crazy stuff like that.
No, it's because it was Matt Fraser wanted some water, and Dave was like, yeah, you can go get water, but you have to go all the way to the other end of the pitch to go get it. And so that's why Matt Fraser was like, no, I'm not going to go get water. I'm just going to keep doing this instead.
Yeah. Are you doing Murph? Do I have to plan for Murph in 2 weeks for you?
No. This year I will not be doing Murph because,
we have a competition next weekend, don't you?
CJ is coaching Charlie. It's not because CJ is a demon and just doesn't want anyone to do Murph. He's specifically coaching Charlie and wants her to get fitter. For the record, everyone listening, as CJ cheers in the background.
And for the record as well, I also have a competition in Sweden at the start of the month, and I did stupidly go into Murph last year, not warmed up properly, and it did mess my shoulder up, and I'm still fixing. Oh no, CJ is now fixing my shoulder. So don't be stupid, kids.
You were asking something prior to that. You asked me something? I can't remember what it was.
Charlie asked if we had any Murph tips.
Oh, Murph tips. Here we go.
I'll go because I'm on a roll. I'm already talking.
Wow.
Murph tip that I'm stealing from CJ. The push-ups are the hardest part. So I like the idea. I've seen a lot of people do really well breaking up the push-ups into 5s. So doing something like 5 pull-ups, 5 push-ups, 15 air squats, 5 push-ups. As long as you're not moving around too much and you make those transitions really fast, it can make it so that you never stop. In theory, if you have the adequate level of fitness to do it, it would make it to where you never have to stop, ideally. Like, for instance, if I was doing Murph and I want to get the fastest time, I might do some combination of that. But I know that I could do the 5 pull-ups unbroken, 5 push-ups, 15 air squats, and then 5 push-ups, and never like keep my pace really, really high. Where people really get killed is, let's say, doing the Cindy style, or especially unpartitioned, obviously, is they eventually hit a brick wall in those push-ups, and it turns into like, you'll do like a set of 4 and then 3, and then, you're just struggling through singles towards the end, and that eats up a ton of time. So whatever you can do, whatever rep scheme allows you to never actually rest, and all you're doing is either doing reps or transitioning to the next movement quickly, that is kind of the key to getting that middle meat of the workout done.
Middle meat. What I'm talking about. So, yeah, I like that. I think on the WODprep bro fitness train, I think the best advice I can give is if you're going to wear a vest, everyone should wear a vest and wear it as loose as possible so that when you do your push-ups, you're just like this. You know what I mean? Right? Because as soon as the vest
that
touches.
video has not released, CJ. That
Yes,
is
it has.
confidential
Came out
information.
yesterday.
No, it didn't.
It did. It was on Instagram.
What? No.
Yes.
We had that was a different bro video. The Murph video.
A different. Oh, not the Murph one. Oh, Murph bro. Oh, sorry. I didn't know that was happening.
We have a special edition, how to set the world record Murph video coming out. Everyone stay tuned. It'll be on Instagram. You're gonna love it.
Are you wearing the HM hair?
You better believe I'm wearing the hair.
Yes.
And you better believe I call him out.
Hell yeah. That's so great. So no, my biggest tip is from a safety perspective, right? And just like being really serious. If you have not trained in a vest, it's not the time to do it. Okay. It is like if you are not used to that kind of volume, pulling volume under fatigue, pushing volume under fatigue, it's train for it. That's what you want to do. Prepare for it. Okay. Because it's just such a big jump. It's the equivalent of you going to run a marathon without having done an 8-mile run prior to it, right? Like it just is not a good idea. On top of that, overhydrate. And if you're if you're in the States and you're going to do Memorial Day things and consume a lot of beverages in the sun, just give yourself like 2 hours and try to consume a gallon of water in that time. Because if not, like Ben said, it can just get really gnarly, really rough. So the way that we do it at WODprep is we prepare for a couple days before, very low training, and then that whole next week is deload, no matter what. Doesn't matter anyone, all my individual athletes, we always move the season and phase around that time frame. Even if you feel great after it, you might not feel great 4 days later. So, if you feel awesome on Monday, you do it on Saturday. Just don't do a lot of squats and a lot of pull-ups. Like just maybe bike, maybe run a little, power Olympic lifts or something. Just not a lot of contraction volume because it's just such a fine tipping scale of feeling okay to like being T-Rex armed and just being stuck. So, all right, that's my TED Talk on Murph safety.
I have definitely, and see, where was this? There was, I forget when it was. I think it was only a couple years ago now where, I'm pretty fit, but just hadn't been training as much as I'm, used to training. And I hit Murph and, sure enough, I couldn't extend my arms for like 4 days, just like straight T-Rex arms. And, I was fit enough to do Murph, but not fit enough to come out of Murph without horrible delayed onset muscle soreness and hopefully not rhabdo. My kidneys, I think, still work. But yeah, it's gnarly. So don't overlook it because it's easy to feel really good in the workout and then feel absolutely horrible for the next 5 days. And that's not what we want. I'd rather see you leave a little bit in the tank in the workout, like just pace it just a little bit so that you're not just wrecked for weeks.
Yep.
Now I'm going to follow my top tip is don't be afraid to scale. Don't let that ego get in the way. Again, just kind of following on both of your points. Didn't do any weight vest training, so then started doing high volume. Even though absolutely fit enough to do the workout and do it a fairly all right time. Like I said, I still came out with a shoulder injury a year later that's still giving me bother. And just because I wanted to go as hard as I can, as fast as I can, with no prior prep or training beforehand. So where I should have just taken the weight vest off, for example, that would have been a really good workout, done a really good time, and just taken the weight vest off. So, and even then scaling it from unpartitioned to Cindy, don't be afraid to do it. Just do it.
And I think mine is, along with obviously kind of we've all echoed that you really need to recognize where you're at and make smart decisions. Beyond that, I think to just be in the moment and appreciate that you can do it and that you get to do something like that, and that your training and your body allows you to do these really incredible things, and appreciate that through your workout and move steady and have a good time.
Yep.
Okay, so guys, just sort of wrapping it up then, what is everybody's favorite hero workout?
All right. So, what a great question. I'll go first. So, I actually think mine is, I don't ever know how to say it, Manion. I think it's 7 rounds, 400-meter run, 29 back squats. The first time I ever did this workout, we had to, I don't know, we did it kind of adjusted. You had to like unload the bar, move the weights, and then reload it and do the 29 back squats. And it took like, I don't know, like 100 minutes. It was so long. Like whatever, it was like almost kind of like the passion wad, which is what they do in Easter. They like walk 800 with the barbell. So we had to like unload it. We had to walk it a certain amount of distance, come back, do the squats, and then run. And it was just kind of like this. And I don't know. Ever since that one, I think that one was my favorite. I think that was the most grueling. And then second would be that the year I did Murph in the Sun. While it was the worst, I never felt more accomplished doing a workout for sure.
You know, I probably have a true favorite, but it's probably, I have a couple favorites. But instead, I'm going to talk about my first experience with JT, because I don't think I had ever done so much just like pushing and pushing and pushing. And I remember being at complete failure, probably more than once. But the first time, I was just laughing. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you cry or get mad, but I laugh. Like when I get to muscular failure, like I think it's ridiculous. And so it's like a fond memory of mine because I couldn't do anything. Like I was just like standing by the wall for my handstand push-ups and just like laughing. And it was just like a very like happy memory of mine. And then opposingly, the 7, which looks like something I would love, but is just so tricky, is the first time I ever took a knee in a workout. And like, I'll stand there and like put hands on my knees, but like I've never actually touched the ground with my body. And I just like took a knee and I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe what's happening right now. So it's like it's like a very standout workout for me, because I just felt like I got so blindsided and I was like taken down so unexpectedly.
You stole mine. 7. The 7 is my favorite. I would do the 7. I do it at least once a week in college. It was just so gnarly with the heavy, just so everyone knows. So 7 rounds for time, 7 handstand push-ups, 7 thrusters at 135.95, 7 knees to elbows, way harder than toes to bar.
Totally.
7 deadlifts at 245, 165, 7 burpees, 7 kettlebell swings at 2 or 1.5 pood. And also 7 pull-ups, sorry. And that is known as the CIA 7 workout. It is named in honor of 7 CIA officers killed by a suicide bomber on a remote base in Afghanistan, December 30th, 2009. So that's the 7, and that is definitely my favorite for sure. And I did it a lot.
And then mine is unshockingly is DT. So yeah. it is a barbell, but I do have one real, like we do it a lot actually, but there was one really memorable time. So when Sam Briggs, I've had the fortunate of her owning the gym, and she used to always take our team training. And so she programmed session. She was like, right, we're gonna do heavy DT. And she was like, oh, Charlie, you're gonna do it with 70 kilograms. So Sam Briggs tells you to do 70 kilogram DT, you go and do it. You don't say anything back, you just do it. So I was like, okay, I'll go do it. Anyway, so did it, completed it. I was really super happy with myself. And then I just remember the next couple of days, like at least 2 to 3 days, I could not feel my traps. I was literally like walking around, just like trying to work at my desk like this, just sort of hunched over like Notre Dame. And I don't think I've done heavy DT since. I've like literally just outright refused to do it. But it's still like this memorable, again, weirdly experience.
That's good. A hero workout was the only workout I ever quit. Like cold turkey. I was doing Chad last 2 years ago, but I was like, I can do it with, I think I had a 60-pound ruck on to a 24-inch box. And I was like, I can go. I made it 500 steps in and I was like, I'm going to blow my Achilles. Like I was like, it was hurting bad. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to hurt myself. And I had to stop. I think I flipped the box down and I went unweighted, which is, I couldn't even describe how big of a difference that was. But that was one of the only kind of took me to a knee. I was like, I wasn't breathing that hard, but I was like, I'm gonna hurt myself. Like this is not going well. So that was probably the only workout I've ever just like cut it down, like shut it down in the middle of it.
I mean, Chad is nasty anyway, so that's fair play. All right, and then that's it for another episode of the Warm Up by WODprep. Ben, as the founder of WODprep, do you have any final words?
Well, just remember, everyone, when you go into the season of doing hero workouts, remember why you're doing them and remember that you get to do them. And I think it will make it much better than going in and trying to beat everyone and trying to beat your chest and say how awesome you are. So, and stay safe. Don't let your wantingness to prove yourself prevent you from making smart decisions. So, and with that, have a good time and remember the fallen on Memorial Day or Remembrance Day, whichever part of the globe you're in.